All right, let's do it. Well, welcome. Thank you, everyone, for being here and joining us today. Streamline, interactive learning session. We're going to call it a webinar, but this is an interactive learning session because we want it to be interactive. And by inviting all these awesome people on today, we know it's going to be interactive. So my name is Joe Tompkins. I am the technical trainer and integration specialist here at Lendesk and Finmo. I'm so happy to be hosting this with these awesome people. I'm going to do an introduction here shortly. But we want you to be involved. We want you to put in the chat any questions you have. Don't be shy. Honestly, there's no dumb questions or tough questions. We'll get an answer to you. So with that, let's go ahead and let's meet our panelists. Of course, I've introduced myself. I'm tech trainer, integration specialist, also a licensed broker here in British Columbia. I have a team that I can hand everything off to, and I'm thankful for them every single day. Francis Hinojosa. Francis, thank you so much for joining us today. First of all, I had this whole thing I was going to lead in with, but I was listening to Francis on Ron Butler's Angry Mortgage Broker podcast. And one thing stood out to me is that she's gushy and lovey. So that's Francis.
I truly am to the core. I know it's like the voice and the personality sometimes can like throw people off, right? So it could be a little aggressive, but it's aggressive coming from a true place of caring and passion for this industry and what we do every single day.
Absolutely. So a little bit about Francis. There's a lot to cover, so I'm going to go quick. 29 plus years in the finance industry. She is the CEO of Tribe Financial out of the GTA, a great brokerage run out of Toronto. Really lean in with all of their people. She's a big mentor with the agents and the brokers on there. She's known for integrity, transparency, and heart, as we've mentioned, and she excels in customized mortgage planning. And she's just such an asset to all of us and such a wonderful woman in the industry. And I think that's such an important voice in our industry is the women, starting from my sister who works with CMHC. She's been involved for 30 plus years. They are the heartbeat of our industry. And I just shout out to Francis for joining us today. We have Mr. Chris Koloninski. He is joining us from Indianapolis today. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. We're so stoked to have you. So Chris is on holidays. He's taking a bit of a break to jump on this. I've known Chris for over a year now, working with Finmo and talking to him about technology. The thing that jumps out to me about Chris is that he's just a family guy. He's from Saskatoon, sticking it out in Saskatoon with his family. He's authentic. What you see is what you get. And he is a brand guy, apparently, today. He's supporting our team over at Be Vigilant. So thanks, Chris, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
We have the Be Vigilant team. So excited to have these guys join us. They are doing what I like to call the Lord's work in behind the scenes with technology. They are going after technology from a security point of view, and they're doing stuff that all of us are going to need to know a lot more about in the very near future. And I'm going to leave that up to them to speak to, because there's some changes coming down the pipeline for all of us mortgage professionals. But on the team, they have Ben. He's in the lower portion of my screen, Ben Rutledge. And then we have Brad here at the top. And then we have Rob over there from Be Vigilant. Ben, thanks for joining us. If any of you know Ben Rutledge, or if you are a fan of the Olympics, he's a 2008 gold medal rowing champion for the men's 8. Very cool. And he's a leader. Him and his team. Yeah, hey, thank you for joining us. And he's a leader in the industry, and he's really a thought leader, and he's helping us move forward as professionals, but also as part of his brokerage, Designer Capital out of Victoria. They've got a good team. Rob, I feel like I need to bow to the true geek in the crowd today, Rob Mark. He's been in IT for over 17 years. He started working with brokers and real estate agents in 2010, and he saw an immediate need for security and technology help for us. And he's so right. So what they're doing at Be Vigilant is so important for all of us. So they have a great presentation that they're going to talk about today, and the importance of everything that we're doing on it. So with that, thank you everyone for joining us. Let's get started. So this will be recorded, of course, and it's an interactive session. As I mentioned, I really want to iterate that. We have Kate from the team, and I think Marnie is a couple people as well from our team monitoring the chat. So if you have questions, the team is there to help you. But let's get going. I'm going to have a sip of water. Francis, anything before I get going?
No, other than I'm really excited to go through the session myself. And me and Joe, just interesting, everyone listening in. And as we started off at the beginning, what Lori said, I will profess I am not a tech guru at all. So to be honest, everyone listening, when Joe approached me to do this, I'm like, Joe, whoa, like I said before, I remember an email was introduced. I am not a tech guru. But what I'm really excited about to hear today is I'm cognizant of the fact of how important technology is to our business every single day, and to listen to you guys as experts, even myself, to get a better understanding of how to further my own process along, and what tidbits you guys have and the importance of it to establishing our business. So with that, I'm eager to listen in as well.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting in our preamble as we joined before everyone came on, just to say hello and get comfortable and give each other a bit of a hard time. We're talking about one of my first points I want to make, and so streamlining mortgage business, streamlining your mortgage business, whether from a brokerage point of view or whether from a brokering point of view, we have to. And one of the things we talked about is our industry, and when new agents come into the business and they're lost, right? We get licensed, and we hope that we sign up with a brokerage that has great mentorship, like Designer Capital or Tribe, or there's so many wonderful brokerages out there in our country that really support their agents and do a good job. But there's also some that don't, and that really, I think it falls on us as individual mortgage professionals with experience in our industry of speaking to our associations and making sure that we're saying, hey, when these new people are coming in, they need to be trained properly. Like, there needs to be some mandatory training. I look at the income that can be earned by people who are in the industry, and we all know how much some people can make in this industry, and it's enormous. We make more than some GP doctors or accounting firms. It's crazy. Yet we're not supported in the same way when we get licensed and given that book of, this is how you lease an office, this is how you open up a business, this is how you hire somebody. So what today is all about is really breaking it down to the importance of, what does it mean to streamline your mortgage business? What does it mean to have a client journey? And at Lendesk and Finmo, what we try to do is really promote the consumer experience. So from application through document collection, underwriting, and submission, we wanted to get you to that mortgage in minute. But also, we want to help you understand how your account can connect to multiple systems, how you can use automation and speed up the process, speed up the back end administrative work. I think that probably most of us here can attest to the fact that when we got licensed, we're excited about getting out there and marketing and meeting people and meeting realtors, financial planners, and getting deals coming in the door and doing our thing on social media, or maybe webinars like this, or maybe in person at events. But none of us really got super excited about having to enter contacts into a system, about moving a deal card along a board, about copying some information from our mortgage software and pasting it into a deal card, doing all these different things that we have to do in order to monitor our business. And that's what this is all about. This is about using the technology that we have here at Lendesk and how you can connect it to thousands of different systems to automate and take those administrative tasks off your desk. So let's go. So let's jump into the importance of setting up a siloed tech stack. So what this is about is controlling your data. When I talk about a siloed tech stack, you think about systems that you use in your business every single day. Your mortgage software, your email system, your cloud storage, everything. It could be MailChimp, it could be Blue Mortgage, it could be Brokerage, it could be Pipedrive, it could be Trello, it could be Google, it could be Office 365. There's so many great systems out there that you can use in your business that are going to help you every single day to have a secure stack. But a lot of us sort of pick little systems that we want to use every single day and bring those into our business. And next thing you know, we have a lot of redundancy, we have a lot of insecure systems, and we have systems that are not speaking to each other. And so that's what a siloed tech stack is all about, is making sure that you control the data for your clients. And that's one of the biggest things that I was taught. My brother, Steve, was my mentor when I got into the mortgage business. And he says, your database is your gold mine. After 3 to 5 years, 30, 50, 60% of your business should be coming from your database. And you need to control that database. And then as you mature, get to 10 years in the business, over 50% of your business should be coming from your database, as well as new things that you're doing in the industry to get referrals. So it's really important that you control it. Of course, we have to provide our brokerage with data to get paid and do that, but you need to control the systems in your business so you can run your business your way. All right, so the importance of setting up systems in the silos. So what's really important, and one thing that we've all learned over the last 3 years, is that if COVID has taught our industry anything, it's that clients want a modern experience. Clients want the skip the dishes experience. They want the Uber. They want the Amazon. Clients want to know that they can go on, complete an application, be notified what they're going to need, and be able to do it. And then have communication that lets them know what the next steps are, what's happening. And that's what this is about. It's about creating that experience for your clients with systems in a siloed tech stack. And I think the most important thing is clients want to know, and Francis, you can probably attest to this as well. Clients want to know that you care about their experience from the get-go. And I think that's one of the things that we've sort of not taught people, is that from the moment you meet them to their renewal, that clients want to have that. They want to feel cared for. That's about it, right? They really do. And that's what's going to get you an introduction and a referral. All right. So use the systems that follow your client journey. If anyone has ever been on a session with me about CRM and integration, I always talk about the client journey. And this is something, again, my brother taught me: write down what you've done well, write down what got you an introduction, write down what got you a referral, and repeat it. It's not rocket science. Repeat it. So I'm going to show you a client journey we have here shortly that started from that. And it has been, many different hands have been in it, and I share it with everyone. Everyone has a different version of it. So I look forward to sharing it with anyone that wants one. I think it's an important part of you setting up your business as a broker, whether you're new in the business, been in for a year, been in for 10 years, there's always an opportunity to reinvent what you're doing to improve that client journey. So what is a client journey? What is a well-defined client journey? Let's talk about this. So a client journey is really, it's a document. It could be handwritten, it could be typed out. It's something that is professional and concise and structured outline that details the various stages of the client journey through doing a mortgage with you, from lead all the way through to renewal. What do you do at every step of the client journey? And it's really about how you run your business. If you think about, you're being in the business for 2 or 3 years, your volumes are getting there, you've got some great referral partners, you're up to 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, you're starting to think, I'm getting busy. I'm doing a lot of transactions. I'm going to have to start thinking about hiring somebody soon. Well, if you hired somebody today without a client journey, without a business plan, how would you train them? What would you show them for how you do your business? So not only is it a way for you to create a repeatable business structure, but it's a way for you to create a document that you can then hand off to new hires, and you can show them, hey, this is how I do my business. And every client is a little bit different, but this is how I do my business. So why do you need one in your business? And I ask all the panelists here, if you have other things that you want to add into this, I'm going to talk about consistent professional service, transparency, setting clear expectations, improved communication, enhanced efficiency, productivity, client retention and referrals, and compliance and risk management. You can include that in there too. I mean, there's probably other things that a client journey would do. Chris, I know you're a big believer in the client journey. I mean, what are some other reasons that you have that a broker should have a client journey on hand?
Well, for me, it really started off when I set up my customer journey or client journey. It really helped me dial in exactly where I needed to go with my CRM systems, right? It allowed me to figure out where the deficiencies were in my client experience. It allowed me to figure out what I was doing well. And it also allowed me to really figure out what I could automate and where I could save time. Because without that customer journey, I was kind of just swimming without a paddle or boating without a paddle, whatever the saying goes. Because you don't know, if you don't know, you might know start to finish, but if you don't know what's going on between, you can't navigate that properly. And so for me, it was absolutely pivotal. And I actually put this in my presentation after you said this. I put it into my presentation where I said, if you do not have a customer journey, I can't stress this enough, but please reach out to Joe and get a copy of this, because it's so important that you know the start and finish and everything in between and everything beyond, because that's what's going to help you save you a ton of time when you're looking at automating your business.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. I totally agree. I think it's a starting point. And I've seen a few people that have come in, I don't have one of those. Oh my gosh. And, what do I do? Well, do it now. Like, just take it and just, take that hour, take that 2 hours a week. And what do I do at this stage? And write it down. And if you don't know what happens, ask somebody.
And the only thing I want to add to the customer journey is that this is a living document. Like this, your journey is going to change. Your processes are going to change. You might go through this and realize, oh, you know what? This is a perfect thing I can add into my automation, or, you know what, I can get rid of this and outsource this or whatever. So whatever you decide to come up with, it's going to be a living document that's going to be growing with you forever.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me switch screens now, and I'm going to go ahead and show the customer journey here, because I think it's something important to share. Chris, can you see that okay? That come through, that client journey?
I can, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Now, I know the guys at Be Vigilant, you guys work on this as well with clients. If someone comes to you and they don't have a client journey, they're kind of like lost, this is something that you guys will focus on too as well with them, correct?
Yeah. It's the first thing we ask for. And if they don't have one, then we strongly suggest that this is probably a good place to start before you start automating anything. Yeah, fantastic. I figured you guys would. So this is the customer journey that I've built. It's going to look familiar to some people. This is literally, it started from a written piece of paper when my brother was standing over my desk telling me to write stuff down, and then it evolved. And so it goes from lead. When a new lead comes in, what do you do? There's multiple steps here. Through to renewal. What do you do with each client? And what systems do you need to speak to? Where does that happen? So if you take this document and let's say you're looking at the pre-approval stage and you're wondering, okay, well, what does a successful broker agent do at the pre-approval stage with their clients? Well, learn up, do what, there's people like Francis, there's people like Chris, there's people that have made mistakes and relearned and redone their business, have figured out what works, and talk to them. And all of us clearly love talking. So it's one of these things where we'll share what we've done. And then it's up to you to put that in your journey and implement it in your business. So learn up. And if you don't know, find out someone who does and lean on them and start to implement it in your business. So this document quickly, from lead, again, all the way through to renewal, we're going to share this document with you, and you can change it, take a piece out of it, take nothing out of it, use it. The next section, section 2, is what we're talking about, tech stack and automation. It's listing off the systems that you have in your business. What do you use in your business? You got Finmo, you have your application, submission platform, compliance, you have your CRM. What CRM are you using? Have you switched? Are you using up a new one? So you go ahead and you put in your new one in there. Are you using Gmail? Are you using Office 365? So you make a list of all the software that you're using in your business. And number one, you look, is it secure? Do I own this tech stack? Do I have control over it? Is it compliant? Is secure? All those things. But then, do I have redundancy? If I'm paying for a Google Administrator account, a Google Workplace account, or an Office 365 account to host my email, am I paying for a Dropbox Enterprise account as well? You don't need to do that. We need to look at where we're spending our money and spend wisely as mortgage professionals to make sure that we're not paying for things that we don't need to. But this section for those is where you build out your automations. Once you start to learn about automations and what they are, you can come into here and say, okay, when a new lead comes in, what systems am I speaking to? I start the application in Finmo, and then it's going to speak to my different systems. What systems am I speaking to? So this is where you keep notes, essentially, of what you want to have happen. And this is where the people like at Be Vigilant would jump in and say, and write this out for you or walk you through how this would work. So it's an important part of your business. It's an important part for you to monitor what systems you're using and to let your new hires know when the time comes. Here's the system that I use. I'm going to sign you up for training.
with the team over at Finmo and my CRM system all through. So it's a great little tool. All right, so let's talk about the tech stack, silo tech stack. What is the silo tech stack? We've talked about that a little bit. Different software tools for different stages of the mortgage, all of them connecting, speaking to each other at some aspect. So why should we use a tech stack? Efficient workflow, we talked about these things as well, and streamline your workflow by using specific tools tailored to whatever stage you're in with that mortgage. I mean, Finmo is your online application, document collection, submission, but we don't send out birthday emails. We never took on that side of the CRM business because we knew there's partners with Blue Mortgage or Broker Edge or great systems that connect fully to Finmo that can do this for you and do it well. That's their specialization. Our specialization is helping you get to that mortgage in minutes. We talk about data integrity. And so using tools for each stage of the client journey, the integrity is maintained. Silo systems ensure that the information remains accurate and consistent throughout the process because you've connected it all, because your Finmo is speaking to your CRM and to your accounts. Enhance client experience. This is important. We've made some upgrades at Finmo lately on this as well. But a well-integrated tech stack enables mortgage professionals to provide a seamless and consistent experience to their clients. It allows for smooth handoffs between different stages, between people in your office. If you have an assistant that handles a different stage of the mortgage process, this is what this can help you do. For accessibility, Finmo has gone through a big change to make herself accessible for all users. And this means, what does Finmo work like? How does it work? So we have gone through and done a comprehensive update that provides the most modern accessibility features available. You might see some changes that are available now in Finmo where text is underlined, boxes come around things when you click on it. It's all part of the accessibility for those of different skills and some with disabilities as well. We want our software to be accessible to everybody, and that's really important. Compliance and security. I can't wait to hear what Rob and the team at Be Vigilant are going to talk about this. I want them to drop the hammer on this one. It's so important. We're dealing with consumer data here, and we need to protect it with everything. If you look at the banking world, they have VPNs, they have dedicated laptops. You can't download software to it unless you're given permission. That's the way we work at Lendesk, protecting access to consumer data as well, because Lendesk and Finmo are SOC 2, Type 2 compliant. And for the non-geeks, what that means is we're audited every 6 months by KPMG. They look at every process we have at Lendesk and Finmo, and we have to be certified. And it's an important part of who we are as a company, that we're doing everything we can to ensure that we're guarding your consumer data. You need to do it as well, because we're going to be told soon. So scalability and integration, and I'll finish with this about the tech stack along with automation, is that you need to be able to grow. As your business grows, as you take on more volume, as you take on more staff, you need to be able to know that your tech stack is going to support your business growing, and the ability to plug and play. If you need to bring a new system in, you're going to know how to be able to bring a system in that's going to be able to connect to everything that you're working with. And lastly, automation and efficiency gains. The guys at Be Vigilant will talk more about this as well. But we want to make sure that the systems are speaking and is taking off those low dollar per hour tasks that you're busy doing at the end of the day when you should be going home and firing out the barbecue or going to the beach in the summertime. We need to be more efficient at what we're doing. So hopefully today will help you learn about that. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to talk a little bit about automation. I'm going to show you a couple of features, and then I'm going to hand it off to the team at Be Vigilant, and they're going to cover more about this. So for this next part of the presentation, what I'm going to talk to you about is the automation and what can happen from Finmo. And with this, we're going to be talking about an application starting in Finmo. And so this is some automation that I've set up in a program called Zapier. That's one of the systems that we connect with. And when you start an application in Finmo, it can be as simple as inviting a new borrower in. And when you log into Finmo and someone contacts you and says, hey, can you send me your application link, please? I need to get started on an application. You're like, yeah, absolutely. You start a new deal, continue. I want to create a new borrower. And you go ahead and you invite the borrower in. When you invite a borrower in on Finmo, you are essentially creating a record here on Finmo, and you'll have it in borrower editing mode, and then Finmo will then speak through to your systems. And that's what this is talking about. I've started an application on Finmo. I'm using Trello as an example here today. I could be using over 700 different CRM systems, but for now, it's going to look at my CRM system and say, hey, does this client exist? No, create the client. Does the mortgage exist? No, create the mortgage record. Perfect. But I also wanted to create a contact in my email system. Why not have a backup of your clients in your email system? So when they call you on your smartphone, you're like, oh, there's Maria Turner. Hey, Maria, how are you? And it just improves that experience for the client. You can create a task with different tasking systems automatically. You can have that task happen at a specific time. You can have a calendar event created to happen in 24 hours or 48 hours to follow up on that application. You can use a delay on Zapier or your CRM system to follow up. And then you can create a draft email that's pre-written for you, already made out to that client that you can go in and tweak and then send the email to the client to follow up on the application. All of these things take time. And that's one of the things I like to focus on for us is that so much of our time is spent on administrative tasks. When you set up automation through Finmo, through your systems, through your partners that you're using, you can save an enormous amount of time. This is one example. All of these tasks here add up to about 30 minutes of saved administrative time. If we look at the next stage, when a client submits an application, this is about 45 minutes of saved administrative time. And I have a broker from Ontario that I've worked with, and she's awesome. Her name is Donna. And remember, she was paying for a system. She didn't use it properly. She was frustrated. She had a MailChimp account. She had a Google spreadsheet, and she used Google Gmail, Google Workplace account. She came back to me early last year, and she told me that with her 4 or 5 different triggers that she has turned on, she's saving about 2 hours of administrative time per application. And that to me is just incredible to think that this is available to us as brokers. 2 hours per application is a significant amount of time. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hand it off to the team at Be Vigilant, and you guys can go ahead and I'm going to give up sharing the screen. And Kate, you can go ahead and let them present if you guys need to present.
Well, I'll kick it off for us, but I am Ben Rutledge and got Rob Mark here as well. As I said, we operate as a team. I come from the broker side, and what we have done is partnered with Rob, who is a tech geek aficionado, somebody that we found very quickly to trust, and had such high level thinking and seeing of the industry, what could be done with technology. And we had approached Rob with our growing brokerage with a lot of things we wanted to do, and all of a sudden our mind kind of became open to all these different solutions. And is sort of the genesis of where Be Vigilant came from, was that we wanted to be the best. Maybe stemmed from partly my being an Olympic gold medalist and wanting to find out the best way to do every single task, and not being afraid to uncover every stone and find a solution. And we realized that we spent a lot of time learning this stuff, and what we found was that could we help the broker industry with this information? Because us as brokers, we always believe that we want to help, educate, and band together to help protect our industry, not only with being more efficient, providing better solutions, but also on the tech and cybersecurity side of how do we protect this industry? Because if one broker gets out in the news, has a cybersecurity attack, all of us could be tainted with that. So we're coming at this from the lens of how do we help people? How do we help the broker industry at large become more aware of what's going on out there in the world? And how do we solve it with technology? And that's, ultimately what we do. We want to unclutter your brain. You're thinking about all these different things when you wake up in the morning. I've got calls to make, I've got deals to close, I've got everything going on. But how do we remove that and just allow you to be as best as you absolutely can be? And every broker will have different strengths. Some are very good at being good at selling. Some are very good at details, analysis. And we want to try and find a way to help you become the best that you are, so that you're not bogged down by the things that you're not good at. And we want to use technology to bridge that gap. And that's ultimately where we want to go. I'll talk a little bit here. That's the brief intro to Be Vigilant. Rob is going to go into more detail on how these systems work and what we're doing. I'll talk a little bit of the advantages a bit more to this, and then we can kick it back over. But yeah, anyways, that was the quick intro. Thank you, Joe, Lendesk, for having us on, Chris, Francis as well. You guys have been amazing partners to be able to launch this. And yeah, we want questions. We're going to try and take things to a level of maybe talking in some real technical bits, but we want you to go, what are they talking about? And then ask the question. We'll go sort of that sort of way, but yeah, we'll get you covered there. So I'm going to open this. This will be sort of the last slide, but my memory is not always amazing, but I really wanted to just harp in on sort of what are the benefits of automation, right? How can we get you to be a better business with technology? And a lot of it is, as Joe has said, removing a lot of that administrative side of things. And when you do that, there's time saved. That's one thing. There's money saved. Maybe that's another, in terms of the personnel you might be hiring to do these tasks, because you can do it less. But it's also the higher level thinking, creativity that comes in your mind when that space is opened up. And that's what we want you to be able to sit in that moment with, was when you do get with the clients, you're not rushing through to get to the next thing, or you're like thinking about this. You can actually absorb and really hear what they're saying. And that's where we want to get you to. A big list of all these other things of increased accuracy, higher level service, being able to be who you are, confidence in your process, employee training. And the one part we wanted to kind of focus it a little bit here quick as well is just, we're in a down market. For a lot of people, I don't know what if people are willing to share, but overall, there's some markets that are 60% closing 60% less business now than they were last year. And that's significant. And there's two opportunities we see. One is that you have maybe a little more time now to get something set up, because this business is cyclical. It will come back. You need to find the way to get through this period of time. But now's the time to focus in and get your systems in order, so that when the business does start picking up, you've got a steady rock to sit on. Number two, in this market, you need to spend more time selling. You need to be in front of people, gaining their trust, getting them through, finding out what their problems are, and solving their mortgage, giving them the best mortgage solution, as we all do as great mortgage brokers. And we need to remove time away with technology automations to be able to give you that time to keep your business going. But the problem that sort of faces, right, is, I don't know anything about technology. Where do I start? How much time is it going to take? What do I need to learn to do it? I'm going to not go maybe too much detail, because I know Chris has got a whole presentation on how much time he's put into his business, and it's going to be amazing to hear. But it does take time to put this together. And what we're here to do is sort of say, we're in the mortgage business too. We understand all the needs, the ins and outs. We've run as one-person mortgage brokers. We work with 10 people teams and above, and we understand workflows. So we're here to sort of exponentially speed up your ability to create automations and move that forward. Rob, maybe I'll kind of kick it over to you here. Part of this is, creating these automations, getting all these things in one place is one thing, but doing it safely and secure. And maybe now is a good time to transition over to you.
Yeah, I think that's probably the component of the broker space that I've been preaching about the longest, at least since I started working with brokers. And it really is, I'm really glad that, Joe, you touched on the lack of mentorship, because it's kind of the whole industry and getting started as a broker. They just kind of drop you in and they're like, okay, go. like broker now. And you're like, but with what and how? And it's like, figure it out. And we kind of, I think there's this, you get stuck in, I need these tools and I need them fast because I want to get going. But maybe some of the more important features of a tool people aren't actually checking on, or they just don't know to check on. So Joe mentioned SOC Type 2 compliance. Like, that's the gold standard. If you find a product that you like and it does what you need and it's SOC Type 2 compliance, you're probably pretty safe. You're probably, you can trust them to protect your data because they have to. They're audited regularly. It costs a huge amount of money and a lot of time to get compliance. Joe, I'm sure you can speak to the headache that it is as an organization.
It's like this. It's crazy. I mean, I asked in the cost, the startup cost with it, and it's massive sticker shock to get set up, and then each year the cost and the amount of people on the team it takes to maintain that, and it's a lot. It really is.
Well, Joe, I'll jump in here. Just a quick anecdotal story. I know the few times I've come down and visited you guys at the Lendesk Finmo office, because of the security features that you guys have, you literally have to sign in every single time to actually walk into your office space. They have to track all the people coming in and out.
Yeah.
That's how vigilant they are with the data. So it's interesting to see that.
It is. You think that, you can talk to, you're a person, anyone at Lendesk to say, hey, can you help me out with the deal? It's like, well, no, I can't actually. I need to get permission to actually go in, and someone has to assign it to me, and it times out after 30 minutes, right? So it's those kind of things that you're touching on, Rob, that are so important for brokers to understand that they need to start doing this in their business. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who down the stack gets breached. As the broker, you're the one who's going to face the repercussions. You're the one whose reputation in your client's eyes got breached. It doesn't matter if it was Finmo or Trello or whatever platform you were using. The customer knows you, and they know, and you're the one that's going to have to tell them, and you're the one that's going to have to say, I put your data in this platform that I use, but they got breached, but I'm responsible for disclosure. And that's the scary, and like, from my point of view, because I've dealt with insurance remediation as part of my career path over the years. So I got called and sent to offices after they had been breached. And I had to sit down and do the technical work and have the hard talk with the customer and be like, I know that this wasn't totally your fault, but they're your customers. And PIPEDA or PIPA, whatever regulation of the province you're in, says that you have to disclose that this happened, and you have to tell them how it happened, when it happened, what the potential impact is. You're required to do that. And that, as a, like, thankfully, I haven't had to do that for a broker, but just thinking about that from a broker's point of view, I'm like, that's terrifying. Like, I would absolutely never want to be in those shoes. And that's why we want to let people know that one of the really important things that you should check before you decide to jump onto a new piece of software is what kind of security and what practices they have in place to protect your data that's on their platform and your client's data, because you're responsible for that. SOC Type 2 is the gold standard. It doesn't mean everything else is exclusive of that. It's a very high bar to hit, especially for a startup. So I don't want to jump right in and say if they're not Type 2 compliant, you can't use them, because that would eliminate a vast majority of the options available to you. But you can dig a little deeper and you can ask, what kind of encryption are you using? AES 256, SHA 256 key pairs, MFA is enabled on all the accounts. Is it enforced? Like, these are little questions that give you just enough to be sure that that data is safe. If they're using SHA 256 encryption, they're using what the banks are using. So you're no more at risk than the data that's at a bank. So that's, to me, that's great. But then you also need to have two-factor authentication enabled on those accounts. You need to have a secure password, and you need to make sure that they're doing their part to protect your data, because you're the one who's going to get the brunt of that at the end. Mm-hmm. So now that I've done the part that kind of is scary and didn't want to turn the whole thing into doom and gloom and everything, but that's an important part. When you choose a product, if it has the features you have, that's great, but make sure that it's going to be safe too. Make sure that you just do a little bit of research, or ask us, We've tested pretty much everything. We don't charge to answer a question like that. If somebody emails me and says, am I safe to use this product? I'm just going to tell them yes or no. I'm just going to look at the website and figure out what I need to know and tell them yes. I'd rather you be protected. So ask somebody. And yes, technical terms. I use abbreviations all the time. Sorry about that. If I use something that doesn't understand, absolutely call me out on it, Francis. I think that's that's your.
I've been keeping up so far, Rob. You've been doing a good job, and I'm writing some notes that we can all have like an open chat at the end, and some things I'm thinking myself that I've come across that my agents have asked me, and even myself that I've learned over time that I'm thinking, there's probably someone on this call right now that is like, I think I understand this, but not quite too sure. So we're going to do a deeper dive into it, but you guys have been doing great. Like all this stuff here is super important. I think the one thing for me that's really jumping out when me and Ben first had a conversation on this, actually I'd go back and we do a shout out to Christine because I know she's on the call as well. Hi, Christine, I love you. See, that's a gushy part coming out, Joe. But, this Bill C-26, when I first heard about this last year, I mean, it jumped out at me, and that might be, I know it's my finance and working for a bank experience because they are hyper aware of cyber threats and cybersecurity and cyber technology. Well, for those listening in, and I know you have the point there, it is in the second reading. So BC-26, and you can correct me on this, is something where even us as brokers are going to be required to ensure that we have the proper standards and proper technology tools in place to ensure against potential threats and cybersecurity attacks. And if I'm not mistaken, I know for us in particular in Ontario, the regulators have been looking into this, and so has OFSI, all across the board, to ensure that brokers themselves, not just the organizations that they're sending deals to, the lenders, also have the right security measures in place. And I would say, Rob, you've probably seen this, the vast majority of us don't. We think we do, but we really don't, right? Is that a fair statement?
Yep, that's pretty accurate. There's a lot of older habits in the industry that are hard to die, that are taking a long time to die. You've got a document submission platform and your data is stored for your clients, the T4s, the social insurance numbers, everything related to that client, which is the absolute most valuable information that you can get on a client, is stored in a document submission platform, but then people also have it in a folder on their desktop or like,
right.
an unsecured
on their Lenovo, whatever desk, laptop with no password protection or cybersecurity protection, going to a, I hate to say it, Hotmail account, which probably adds another layer of
We're sitting in a Starbucks, shared Wi-Fi in a Starbucks with an unsecured device that has all of your client folders on the desktop. Yeah. No concern there.
So can I jump in here? Do you mind? Because I like this conversation.
Go
So tell me, I decide after this, I got Starbucks walking distance away. I'm going to take my laptop and change base. Beautiful day on the patio. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to use Starbucks Wi-Fi, and I start opening up client information and using my Hotmail account. What is the potential risk to me? What could potentially happen? Run me through even the most scary scenario. Or most common, either one.
The most scary versus most common, opposite ends of the spectrum. Like the most scary is that you happen to be in the cafe at the same time as somebody who is a threat actor, a professional hacker. These are not the people that you see on TV anymore with the black glasses and the hoodie up and everything.
Look at them go.
A lot of them are.
You guys are covering yourselves up, going back to the back of the abyss there, right? Yeah.
A lot of that type of stigma or that type of portrayal of the industry is not accurate anymore. It is largely funded by criminal gang nowadays. It's a great way to make money. It's coming up on par with the drug trade in the United States in terms of the amount of money that gets made from billions and billions of dollars from identity theft, data theft, everything like that. So the worst case scenario, you're sitting in a coffee shop and you happen to be the target. Somebody else is using the same Wi-Fi as you, and they have some tools that allow them to move laterally through the network and get access to what's on your computer. There are ways.
Would you know? I'm just curious. Would I know? Would I just be
probably not
in my laptop? I would have no idea that someone,
unless they were bad at their job. Then no.
You wouldn't even know. They'd just be behind the scenes, like picking away at whatever they want.
Yeah, yeah. And on the other end of the spectrum, there's just I think it was the Hilton brand that got busted for this in some places across the world. But you use a public Wi-Fi, and there's always a system behind that that's providing you the Wi-Fi, and the people providing it to you are paying for it. And the way that they are, the way that they're deciding that it's okay to give free Wi-Fi to every customer at every Starbucks around the world is that there's data that they can gain from the people who are using that Wi-Fi. So they're tracking and monitoring where you're going and things you're accessing. And the thought is that that's probably not malicious in intent, but that doesn't mean that they're not getting info they shouldn't be getting. They're seeing the vast majority of what's coming and going on their network. And even that's enough to be a little bit scary. So
and just to add to that, Rob, is that not only are they collecting that data, but they're also storing that data. So now you don't know what kind of security they have behind the scenes storing that data as well, right? So now not only are you relying on your own security over here, but if they're taking this and they're storing it on their own servers, now if they get hacked for whatever reason, because they're a larger company that you would be, now all that data is in their hands too, which adds to the risk.
Well, okay, so then here's my question. Would it be safer then, because I've done this, I'll admit, I don't necessarily love to use the free Wi-Fi. What I do instead is I tether with my iPhone off my own data. Is that safer to do?
That's definitely safer.
Free Wi-Fi? Okay.
Yep. That's definitely safer. You're in control of the account, and you're not sharing a network with other devices. The thought is that hopefully places like Starbucks would have security in place so that people inside their network sharing the connection can't connect with each other. They're all supposed to be isolated, but that relies on them and their technical team spending the money and doing everything required to do that perfectly flawless. And that's a risk. All it takes is one little mistake or failing to update their firewall or something like that, and there's potential that you could be breached. So yes, in tethering off your phone is a far better solution. If you absolutely have to, or data is like wildly expensive where you're at, the alternative is to get a VPN, a corporate VPN in place, something like NordVPN or Mullvad, so somewhere that these are companies that their reputation is based on the fact that they store and record nothing. Mullvad is a prime example. Mullvad actually got raided by the authorities, and they took all their servers, and they were like, "There's nothing on them."
Yeah, no, you know what? I'll jump in there, Chris. No, I wouldn't. I don't use the Wi-Fi at Starbucks and then do the hotspot. I do the hotspot right from my phone and use my own data. But you're right. If I'm traveling outside the country nowadays, by the way, I just noticed, I don't know if you gentlemen know this, used to be when you traveled, it used to be roam as you go free everywhere. Seems like those days are gone right now. Right? Chris, you're feeling this being down.
Yeah, I'm paying $14 a day right now I'm paying $14 a day right now to have my access to everything. So
right. Yeah. And I think one other tip that I learned, you can back me up on this, is when you use your hotspot, make sure that's password protected, that it's not free willy opened up that anyone, because I don't know about you, I have done this where I've gone to public places and I'm like, okay, who is Jim's iPhone? Because you are completely, I could tether off your phone right now.
Whoops! I accidentally airdropped that customer's T4 to every iPhone in the Starbucks.
Right? Exactly. That's the other thing with technology, airdropping. Exactly that too. It's so easy to poof. Stuff gets accidentally sent somewhere else as well. So thank you for that. That's great info.
No problem. And what you talked about with the PIPEDA and the regulation, I think it's Bill C-27 that is the overreaching one, and it's broken down into 3 parts underneath that. But yeah, Canada has pretty lax security standards right now. PIPEDA is a federal regulation, but it's not it's enforced on federal agencies, and it's a guideline for the provinces, and then every individual province has their own slightly modified version of that. Here in BC, we have PIPA. In Alberta, they have a slightly modified version that they also call PIPA, I believe. So it gets wildly confusing, and the teeth are not really there. The new version, which is the CPPA, or the Consumer Privacy Protection Act, and then it has some subsections under that about AI data and stuff, is much more aggressive in its enforcement. The fines are much higher, and there's no longer a high legal bar for anything to be pursued. There's a tribunal associated with it. So it's much easier for a customer to say, my data has been breached. I want to make sure this doesn't happen again. And all of a sudden there's an investigation and there's court proceedings and everything, but much more accelerated. Right now, it's not that great. It's a bit of a mismatched system, and there's nothing global like that covers all of Canada very well.
Right.
So, but that is changing.
What's
yeah,
the
and I believe it too. Like, do you believe now that you know, I can't remember the stats, but brokers are gaining more and more market share out there, right? Like clients now, the younger generation. I'm all interested. I did this whole deep dive a while ago, which will tie into this about generations, because I do believe it's your mindset when you grew up. But you know, the next generation coming forward, they're more in tune to use technology, but also to use a broker. With this bill being passed, you think there's going to be more focus on the broker community to ensure that the regulators press on them to ensure that they have proper security measures in place? Like, do you think it'll be more of a focal point going forward? Or like you said, because there's not a lot of teeth, it's there, but not as much of a concern. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
It's already starting to be more of a focal point, and like we've seen in the past, the Canadian government and the regulatory bodies are very reactionary. So, I mean, we had a pretty major breach in the broker space fairly recently, I believe near the beginning of the year. 12 West in Toronto was breached and leaked over 700,000 client files through an unsecured Amazon Web Services bucket. All it takes is a couple of events like that before the enforcement agencies are like, we need to look at this. You know, the banking sector, like you said, is heavily regulated already, yet you hold the same data that they do. It's the same information, the social insurance numbers, the tax filing info, bank account info. You have all of that info as a broker. That's required for you to get financing for them. So you have the same data, but almost no regulation right now. It's only a matter of time. And we're trying to make the broker space safer now so that we don't hit a situation where a whole bunch of breaches like this start happening and all of a sudden customers don't trust the broker space anymore because they're hearing about all of this stuff that's getting breached and their data being leaked, and you know, like Home Depot leaking everybody's personal payment information, including their credit cards. You know, it happens in every industry, and it only takes a few. So yes, I think government enforcement is going to get more stringent. We're pretty confident that's going to happen, with or without the CPPA bill passing. It's a problem right now. It's not safe.
And then, you know, E&O insurance. I mean, that to me always comes top of mind of running a brokerage, right?
Yeah.
Because we have to ensure that we have E&O, because that is my, CYA insurance there, if you know what that acronym stands for, right? It's my CYA, yep. that beautiful peach emoji, just make sure I'm covered there. But, you know, with E&O insurance, do you feel like, now I know you can get separate coverage, right, for cyber security? Most, you guys can jump in, Joe, jump in as well. And those of you that run a brokerage, most insurance policies don't have it necessarily embedded in there. You have to get a separate policy, which can be today very expensive. But also they want to do a deep dive on your process to make sure you have stuff in place. Do you believe or think moving forward with this new regulation that will become part of the E&O insurance moving forward?
The insurance industry is already much more aggressive than Canadian regulation is. So those of you if you don't have cyber liability insurance, you should absolutely try to get it. Contact your insurance broker, contact us, and we can refer you to an insurance broker. It's essential. Too many places that I've dealt with in the past have E&O and certain liability coverage, and then they have a cyber incident and they find out that it's totally not covered. And that's more and more common. E&O probably won't cover you for a cyber event like a breach of your data or your emails being leaked or something like that. It's probably not covered by your policy. There's exclusions for that. For a smaller broker, it's not that expensive to get cyber liability insurance. I think you can ballpark in the round of $1,500 a year for an individual brokerage, individual broker for a team. It probably gets up there significantly quickly because you're handling so much more data. Everybody should have that.
I literally just went through this myself like 2 weeks ago, and that's what mine is. Mine's about $1,400 a year, because obviously doesn't cover anything that you need. It's about $1,400 a year, and now I'm protected, and the stuff that's in there is crazy. And to put in perspective on the importance of it and how big of a risk this actually is that behind the scenes, there's actually on my coverage anyways, behind the scenes, there's 4 different insurance companies that are going in on my insurance because of the risk, and they want to divide the risk up themselves. So they're all kind of like taking a fourth of the risk because of how risky cyber security is.
Cyber insurance companies in the States lost like something to the tune of $700 million last year on cyber insurance policies. So the rates sharply went up this year to reflect the increased risk. So they're still, it's very new, but they're actually going to send you up in your policy agreement when you first sign up with them. They're going to send you a questionnaire, and it's going to be like, do you have all of this in place? And that's a great little kick in the butt to be like, oh geez, I don't have any of this, or like I have 1 out of 15. And we can help you get the rest of the way if you need help with that. But it's a great little checklist to look at and be like, wow, they're really checking to make sure I have a lot of stuff in place. And if you don't, then, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so do you foresee then that these bills that are going through the federal government, that's what's going to happen, is that essentially they're going to be creating this checklist via OFSI that in conjunction is going to look a lot like what these cyber insurance companies are doing?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm already seeing it in, I work in the legal field as well a little bit. I'm already seeing regulatory bodies in the legal field starting to say, like, these are mandatory now. You have to have these. 2-factor authentication on all your accounts, encryption on your devices, things like that. They're becoming mandatory for law firms, and every industry is going to adopt it. Your governing bodies are going to adopt it, and the government's going to start enforcing it because there's a baseline where if you just don't have at least this, it's negligence at this point. And that's another thing with the CPPA that they have added in, is that if you do have a breach and they find that it's negligence, the fines are much higher, and the penalty and the associated damages after go up dramatically. So they actually look at each case and say, not everybody can be perfectly safe, but if you were negligent and you just like didn't do the bare minimum, like basically what your insurance company told you needed to do, then this is over and above just an accident happening. This is you being negligent as a business owner, and you like not taking the basic steps to protect your client's data. So insurance policy, that little questionnaire will run you through the vast majority of that. I should probably jump over to automation side of things before we run out of time and just talk about security. Let's
get into the bit sexier. Everyone is checking their insurance right now.
Sorry, Rob. There's one question, Rob.
Yep.
Rob, there's one question that's actually a really great question. So John Eves wants to know, what about all the texting communications? Like if you send text messages instead of email, because sometimes brokers use that to talk to their clients. What do you think about that? How do you back them up for compliance? And what do you think about that in general?
It depends wildly on the systems you're using. If you're just texting from your cell phone, you don't have a whole lot of options. If you're texting from within your CRM, or you're using a corporate text system, something like Twilio, where you're sending programmatic text messages, you can back all of those up as an automation. You can also dump those text messages right into your CRM and have them tied to your CRM. If you're just texting from your phone, as like actually hand texting, and you're not using a corporate system to send that, I would just refrain from using from sending any info that is super sensitive in nature. And also, if you are sending info that's related to their deal, making sure that you, like Francis said before, you have a CYA process for making sure it's in writing in an email as well somewhere. You can talk with them and chat with them over text, but it has to come with a formal email follow-up that has everything written in a means that's trackable and backupable.
And, I'm going to throw one quick thing in there, Rob, because I found this super, super interesting. I don't know if you guys saw the news, but a judge just declared, Supreme Court, there was a contractual agreement. Yeah, the thumbs up. Be careful with emojis that you use in your emails too, because emojis are now legally can constitute different forms of communication agreement. So I totally agree with you. Best practice that we do at our firm and I do in my own business is, yes, I'll chat with clients by text, but then I will literally say, we're taking this over to an email, just so everything is properly time-stamped and diarized in that communication trail.
Yeah. There is tools. I saw Gene posted there that it's easy to back up on Androids. There is tools to back them up, but not in a scalable fashion where you can reliably do it for every text communication. It's kind of something you'd have to manually do every once in a while. I just would strongly advise against using text as a formal means of communication with clients, unless you're using something through your CRM, through Twilio, where you can make sure that those are all being recorded in a client file so that you can find them. I have had to do forensics on phones, bless. It's like 3 phones ago and you have this text message, but you've upgraded your phone multiple times and you need this one text message that you can't find anymore. It's just not worth going down that road, in my opinion. It's a pain in the butt to get that back.
And definitely not documents and photos sent through text messages for compliance stuff, correct?
Yes, customers cannot take pictures of their T4s and send them to you by text message. That's probably not ideal.
Very bad idea, right?
Driver's licenses, social insurance numbers, stuff like that. Yeah, document submission platform is there for that reason. Use it. They're taking the brunt of the security requirements that you have to do as a broker on your behalf. That's why you have something like Finmo or whatever document submission. Even if you have a custom one, if you have a document signing package and a submission platform that you're using, use those systems the way they're designed, and force your customers to use them too, because it's their data that's at risk. Yeah, so APIs and integrations. Joe kind of touched on them briefly, but the client journey is absolutely critical. And what we do with our clients when they have the client journey or don't have one, we tell them to go do one, or we help them to do one. And then we take theirs and we actually went a step further with Joe's little one. And we said, for a couple of weeks when you're writing your client journey, start jotting down times in brackets afterwards. Be as detailed as you can. Reach out to the client by phone call. Now I'm sending the signing package, 6 minutes. I'm sending this 15 minutes. I'm doing a follow-up this many minutes. Just diarize your time for like a week or 2 weeks to get a real value of what each step is in the process. And that's how you can break down, I funded a deal for this much, this is how much time it took me. And then you can actually look into your steps and be like, as a percentage, this one took me this much time. Not every file is going to be the same, but you can quantify the time that you're saving. And from there, that's how we'd like to tackle it with a customer. Is we go and we look at it and we're like, okay, which one of these are automatable? We highlight a bunch of them that are potentially automation candidates. Which one takes the most of your time? Let's do that one first and work backwards. Let's take the biggest, or your assistant's time, or if you have a team, like whichever one is either taking the most time or is resulting. Another great metric is that a lot of firms don't have is, where did the deal get lost? Where did it stop going forward? Where did we lose that deal? That's another one. Why did we lose it? Is there something we can automate to increase accuracy and efficiency and get past that stage more frequently? Because you're either going to have a client come in and fund it, like take it through the whole journey right to funding, or you're going to lose it somewhere along the lines. And having the client journey laid out and being able to track where a deal landed and where it was lost and where it spent the most time is where you're going to find out. It's going to answer the question of what you should automate first. And then we get to how do you automate it? So Joe mentioned Zapier. There's other platforms out there. We use Zapier, we use Make, or Integromat is another one. Different strengths, different weaknesses. Zapier is like the lowest bar to entry. They say that Zapier, your first Zap, if you have zero experience jumping in, should take between 4 and 6 hours to create. If you've never touched an automation before and you just create a Zapier account from scratch, it should take you between 4 and 6 hours to make your first Zap. And that can be something as simple as, when I send my signing package off to the client, I want all of that client's information to drop into my CRM. Or when I make my document request, I want everything into my CRM. Chris mentioned CRMs. Use a CRM and use it well and use it for what it's designed to be used for. and embrace your CRM and then integrate everything else with your CRM. We found that that's the lowest friction, best route to go. If you've got Finmo and you want a CRM that does automated email reminders, we know Broker Edge does that. We know Blue Mortgage does that. We know Blue Mortgage has a full API. That's a very important distinction between every other platform. You may have products that your brokerage gives you. They say, here's a CRM that you get for free. It may not be the best option. Joe, you mentioned siloing. For the first 6 years of working with brokers, that was probably 75% or more of the work that I did. Is brokers come into the space and they use the products that their brokerage gave them. And then 3 years down the road, they're like, this brokerage isn't really supporting me and I want to separate, but they have everything. They have all of my client files. I'm using their CRM, their marketing tools. They host my email. They have everything. I'm handcuffed to this brokerage. So when you're building your silos for your tech, think about that. They may have their own systems and they may give them to you for free, but can you ever leave? You're tied to that brokerage. Do you want to be tied to it? I always tell clients, like, you definitely don't want your brokerage hosting your email if you can avoid it. Get your own G Suite, your own Office 365.
Yeah, and look at the cost of breaking up, right? Look at the cost in the way of time and how, what's it going to take me if I wanted to move and they have all these services that I'm using from this brokerage. And that's one thing I try to tell people, and then go from there.
Yeah, and the reason, there's two reasons that's great. One, you're in control of your data. If you have your own CRM and your own email platform and productivity tool platform, you're in control of that data. You can leave your brokerage and take your clients with you, and you don't have to start again, essentially, when you go to a new brokerage. But on top of that, you now have the control to automate and integrate systems. A lot of the systems we've found given out by the brokerages are very closed system. They don't want you to access the data outside of their internal portal. And that really hamstrings what you can do with your data. And it is your data and your customers' data. You want full control. So have your own platforms, have your own CRM, build the business in a way that it can be segregated from your brokerage if you need to, so that you never face the situation where you just can't get data, or you can get it, but it's in an incredibly arduous manner and you have to manually request it and it takes weeks. It's just not worth the struggle. Separate yourself from the brokerage, utilize the tools and the benefits they give you, but make sure that you have a way out at the end and that you have control so that you can create these efficiencies and automations. And Ben, if you can jump to the one about webhooks and APIs, the reason it's so important is in a platform like, for example, Finmo, they give you a full RESTful API. RESTful, for anybody who wants to know, the basic explanation is that they've agreed to follow a standard guideline of how to access the data and in what manner. If something's not RESTful, everything becomes custom and it's a huge pain in the butt to integrate with the system. If it is RESTful, it follows a set guideline that a huge chunk of the internet follows, and the documentation and the process for doing it is publicly available, and you don't have to pull any teeth or reach behind to get a manager to give you info and stuff like that. They've agreed to be open and conform to a standard. And that is great. And if they provide webhooks, that is even better, because a webhook is basically them saying that they know these things are commonly requested, and we're going to make a tool for you to do it even easier. Correct, Finmo has webhooks as well. And there's a couple other platforms out there that have them and are starting to get more common. An API is the underlying foundation. It stands for Application Programming Interface. It's a way of interacting with all of your data behind the scenes. That's how we create automations. A webhook is a way that they've said, you no longer have to reach out and ask for the data you want. We're just going to give it to you the second we receive it. So a great webhook example is, as soon as a customer puts all of their documents in to Finmo, the webhook will automatically let you know. It'll tell you the client information, the documents they've submitted, the time they've submitted them, everything about their lender profile that it has available for you. All of that stuff can just be pushed automatically, which means that you no longer have to take that data and put it into your CRM or put it into your Kanban board process. You can set up an automation and an integration so that at this stage of my deal, when I receive this information, I want you to automatically put all of this stuff into the platforms that I use. And they can be totally customized to what you want as a broker. Some people don't have a CRM and they just use something like a Kanban, like Trello. Joe, you mentioned Trello. Trello's a great card movement process. It's not a true CRM. We would encourage most people to embrace a CRM because it's going to make your life a lot easier. Customer relationship management, that's basically brokering, is customer relationship management. That's what we specialize in, and that's what we spend a lot of our time doing. We've built dozens and dozens of these scenarios for different people and a whole bunch of them internally to track through everything. Just looking at the note from the marketing guys there to figure out how my time is here. I don't want to run over, and make sure I have a little handoff for Chris here. But yeah, we can create whatever you need. Can probably be done if your platform has an API. It's just up to you to define your client journey and quantify the time savings. Brad's on our team, he doesn't need to speak. Quantify the time savings. Brad is the guy who did like the client journey for us and who helps us identify where the time is best spent. So Brad, anytime you want to jump in, you're more than welcome to on this subject, but that's critical. You need your client journey and you need to quantify time. So our summary from the top down is make sure your platforms are secure, first and foremost. Make sure they have the features you want, and hopefully make sure that they have an API available. Ben and I discussed just earlier, your competition, the banks and the direct lenders, they are automating everything they can, and they are spending a heck of a lot of money right now to build fully integrated systems so that the time to fund a deal is as low as they can possibly get it. And you need to, we believe you need to be doing that as well. There's never going to be a direct, the banks are going to get their customers, brokers have a niche, and you guys are not at risk of just losing all the business to the bank is not what I'm trying to say there. But what I'm saying is that what it costs them to fund a deal is going to be far less than what it costs you if you're not creating automations and efficiencies to reduce the time you have to spend on each file.
And increase the engagement with the client. And
yes,
because we know a lot of the time that clients choose us due to the amount of emotional baggage that we help carry them through, or the higher level thinking, and it gives us more time to do those things instead of being bogged down with a lot of the basic paperwork of doing a file.
Yeah.
Christine asked what the most common weak point is, and I think that's a really good question. I would say there's one of two. Either they're still sending and requesting client files through email. Like they're just saying, yeah, email me your T4s and scans of your driver's license and this and that. That's a pretty significant weak point, because your email is generally the first target. That's the golden goose for a hacking organization, is if they can get their email, they can reset passwords, they can see what services you use. Like that is the prime target of most hacking organizations. And the other one is that they're, like I said before, that they're taking a copy of all the client files and throwing them onto their desktop or their documents folder in a client's folder. And there is safe ways to do that if that is how you work, but you need to make sure that your computer is password protected and has encryption enabled. If you're running Windows, it's called BitLocker. If you're running Mac, it's called Secure System Architecture or something like that under preferences. Basically, if you don't have that enabled and you were at a Starbucks and somebody just walked off with your laptop, it would take like 10 minutes to get the data on it, like to get access to all the data on your machine. Maybe less. Like I can break into a system that doesn't have encryption enabled in usually under 5 minutes. I have a USB key that will do it for me. I just plug it into the side and reboot your computer. Boom, I'm in. Like it's such a low bar to be able to do that. So encryption should be enabled on any device, whether or not you're taking it with you or not. And really get a document submission platform. Don't send everything through email. Email's not that secure. Even in the best case, it's really not that secure. And if you need to make it secure and you refuse to change that, G Suite and Office 365 both have add-on modules that you can buy that are encrypted messaging modules. Those are the only way that would be considered remotely safe. But even then, I would shy away from it.
You know, Rob, I'll jump in there quickly. You know what I found really interesting is when I did the transition over to Finmo and automated the prompts for the automation of the documentation collection from the client when they do an application and all the key things that I want in my process from the client. So, you know, if you're self-employed, I want you to ask for this, right? As you guys know, like setting all that up. I found the response time for clients, I'm getting a complete file at the time the client submits the application. Whereas in the past with other, before Finmo, before that time, we just had a shell built on our website where clients would submit in the information, we get an email with their data sent over that we'd have to reprocess then into the processing system. Us asking the client for documents would take consistently a lot longer. I'm talking days to weeks to get the client sometimes to respond. And what I started to realize psychologically, I think as human beings, we've become conditioned that if the computer asks me to do something, then I will do it, as opposed to if a human asks me to do it, oh, I got time there, and they don't take it as seriously. So it's interesting to see that, because I'm finding with automation and with computers doing this, the clients are more receptive to respond.
Yeah, from a non-broker point of view, like I recently submitted a renewal package for my family mortgage, and also a document submission platform that segments it into steps. Like, this is what you need, then this, then this, then this, and this. Yeah. I used to get an email with like, here's 14 things I need. And like looking at that, like my eyes gloss over. I'm like, oh man, this is going to take me so long. But when I clicked the link and it was like, upload your 2023 or 2022 tax forms. I was like, okay,
now, right?
Like that.
And, do that.
And then it was like, now do this. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. And it's like a lot. It takes the, like, from the client perspective, it took the like overwhelming, like, oh man, like I don't have time to do this, and put it into like, do this. And then before I knew it, I spent the half hour doing it anyway. But it was like, now upload this. And I was like, yes, sir. And I just clicked the button and just go next and next and next. And yeah, I feel it was a better client experience for sure. I did not like having to track everything down in email and then splitting the email up because the attachments are too big, and like, yeah, it's just but it's not safe. The biggest thing is that the email is not safe.
Safe, yeah.
Yeah. So we have a question from Sierra. It says, how do we secure files where the lenders that don't have a secure portal and require you to upload documents and send them by email? That's a really good question. I mean, there's, Scotia's gone to a portal, of course, First National, MCAP Professor, lots of them have these. First and foremost, on Finmo, we have started the process of being able to get your files securely, the documents securely to a lender. We've started that with Strive. Strive has been the first lender that stepped up, where you submit a deal from Finmo to Strive, whatever documents that you have accepted, they can be sent over. And then follow-up documents can be sent over as well. And our lender team and the product team is looking at obviously expanding this, because it's secure. All the documentation is in Finmo, and then the lenders, and that's it, right? Ideally, it's not coming through email or dropped off in a manila envelope underneath your office door. So to Rob or to Brad or to anyone, how would you suggest for these lenders that want you to email the documents? You mentioned it, securing it and encryption. Is that the best way forward?
Yeah, you really don't have a lot of option if it's the lender that's mandating that, but buying the, like, it's very cost effective. I think on Office 365 it's like $3 a month, and on G Suite it's I think like around $4 or something total to add the like encrypted messaging add-on. You can send it through encrypted messaging. That's a much safer way to do that. If the lender will not accept encrypted messages, the next step is maybe question the lender. I would encourage to be like, hey, we'll continue to do this because we want to keep doing the business, but this isn't safe, and you guys should probably do something about it. Like, if they get enough pushback, then it'll encourage them to do it a little more efficiently. But the fact of the matter is that email accounts get breached all the time. They're one of the most common things, and even two-factor authentication is not 100% secure for email accounts. There's a pass the hash attack where they take a cookie off of a machine, and they can log in just using the cookie. It's terrifying, and we won't go down that road too heavily, but like email is what they want. Like the email is what they want, because that's where they can reset your passwords. They can farm the entire inbox and see everybody that you converse with. When you get those phishing emails that are more targeted to you, like they look a lot more legit, they call them spear phishing emails. It's usually because somebody that you communicate with has had their email breached. So the people sending the emails have context. They know who you communicate with and what you do it for, and they're going to try and leverage that. So let's try as much as we can to keep client information out of email.
Yeah. And just we ought to jump on to Chris, Rob, the solutions that maybe could, a quick coverage on the solution, or how do you say, you could infinitely protect yourself, but your business might come to a full halt as well. Like, could you maybe touch on that? Like how? Oh yeah. Security is always a tightrope for us. Like we want to implement as much security as possible without making it impossible for you to do your day. If you come to me today and I want to be 100% secure, I can do it for you. And it costs $20. You get no internet. I'll charge you $20. You can't come in anything to the internet, period.
I say it like this. I say there's security and then there's convenience, and those two things are not, they're the exact opposite. So
they're at odds. Like
happy medium where you're both secure and you've got some convenience in there, because if you're taking one or more of one, you're sacrificing the other.
Yeah. And I think I just want to harp on that, because and we can then move on from that. But this is what we're doing for brokers, is that we'll sit down, have that conversation with you and find that line, right? Where is it that's convenient, but also secure? Because as Rob said, the only true security is no internet, but then there's no business. So you have to find that fine line for who you are and what you are. And it's a lot of detail, just like trying to help get a person a mortgage, to understand which product, when are they moving to their next, are they selling their home? Are they buying their next? Are they keeping this one as a rental later? Get them in the right product now, so that it's not going to affect their business anyway. So those are all the security solutions that we can provide as a last final maybe pitch on, and how we can do that, and how we believe that Finmo is the most secure platform to be on, and that we can help integrate that into your business to make it the most efficient possible.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. All right, Chris, it's over to you. Let's get into what you're doing in your business and how you see that potentially helping.
I'll like to share the screen here so you guys can give me access to that. But before I share a screen, I'll just give a quick rundown here. So again, my name is Chris Kalinske. I've been a broker now for just over 10 years. And I like to look at the first 7 years of me being a broker as just absolute chaos. I used to use legacy Filogics, as most of us did, for a long time. And with the only CRM was in my head. That was literally my entire CRM. I managed everything up in my brain. I knew if I had 20 deals on the go at the same time. I knew when condition of finances were up here, and I tried to not get them mixed up with each other. I knew possession dates, again, try not to get them mixed up with each other. And that was my life for 7 years. And then there was a period of time where I like to tell this story, but I lost 11 deals in 11 weeks in a row. So it was one deal a week I lost. And at the time, I was blaming everyone else, like it's natural to do. So I was blaming the government rule changes, and I was blaming anything I could. I was blaming the clients. I was blaming lenders for timelines. I was blaming everyone else. But after like deals 10 and 11, where I was losing these, I started, look, I'm the only common denominator in this entire thing. What am I doing? What are my systems and processes doing to make me lose these deals? And for me, that was one of the biggest game-changing moments of my career, because it made me realize that I could take all this stuff that I thought wasn't that was out of my control, and brought it back into my control. And that's when I started my journey into the whole submission platform, CRM, automation journey, because I knew that I needed to streamline my processes. And so I started by trying out almost every single deal submission platform there is out there. I started on legacy Filogics, jumped over to Velocity for a bit. From Velocity, I went over to Scarlet DOS. From Scarlet DOS, I went to Filogics Pro when it came out. And then I was kind of using a Filogics Pro Finmo hybrid, where the Finmo was the client-facing application. I'd push everything over into Filogix Pro. But then I realized that I needed Finmo in my life. I needed the client-facing application. I needed the document collection in my life. And so for me, the best solution that I found was this Finmo / Blue Mortgage hybrid, which is based on the Zoho platform. Now, Blue Mortgage, I'm pretty vocal about this online. I pretty much tell things how it is on the Isle of Mortgage Brokering, all those other pages. But like, Blue is an extremely cumbersome system. It's super hard to get into. There's lots to go into it. But the reality is that it works so well with Finmo. The team at Blue set it up so everything is automated. So when a client fills out an application, I get everything into my CRM that I need in there immediately. And then I went in and spent some time after the fact to set up some custom things. But for me, I look at it as the most valuable asset in my business life and in my personal life is time. Money comes and goes, but time is by far the most important asset to me. And it's the one thing that I can't technically buy. I can't get more of time. And so what I started to do is I was like, okay, if I can't buy more time, how do I save more time so that I can allocate more time to doing the things I love? I love playing video games. I love hanging out with my family. I love going on trips. And so I knew it was really important for me to find some systems and processes that worked well together. And so hone in on my tech stack, as everyone else is talking about as well, to get me some more time, to save me time that I can allocate to the things that I like. And ultimately, that's why I decided on Finmo and the open, like the REST hooks, the open API that we got there. It's been absolutely incredible. So essentially what I want to do today is just show you guys a few of the automations that I do. I have a ton of automations that I've set up behind the scenes that have saved me. I don't even know, I haven't even tried to quantify it, but it saved me a ton of time. And so I want to share some of that stuff with you guys. And the other thing I want to touch on was one of the biggest, while I'm talking about this, if you guys let me know in the chat, what CRM are you guys are currently using? I'm interested to know what everyone's using, whether that's Zoho, Salesforce, whatever, an Excel spreadsheet. Just let me know in the chat. I'm super interested about that. Yeah, so to me, one of the biggest questions that I see in all those like Facebook mortgage groups is, what's the best CRM? Everyone asks that question, what's the best CRM? I want the best CRM. The answer to that question isn't easy, because it really doesn't matter what the best CRM is, because you can get a CRM filled with the most features in the world, but if you're not using those features, it doesn't matter. So the saying that I can't remember where I heard this, but I use it all the time. It's the best CRM is the CRM that you use. And so whatever you're getting into, whether that's Blue or Salesforce or even Excel spreadsheet, whatever that is, you have to make sure you use it. And I know Joe alluded to this earlier on in the conversation that, we don't like going in there and automatically copying in fields that we've already done inside your deal submission platform. I don't want to go copy the mortgage amount into the CRM, copy the email into the CRM. That's such a pain. And that's where automations come into play. And I know Dave alluded to a little bit as well, is that you can have Finmo set up to connect with almost any application that you use. Again, even Excel. I actually have some flows that update like a master archaic, not really archaic, but it's a master CRM list that I can base other things off of. And so you can have a ton of different automations set up to do that kind of stuff. A couple of the top features that I like about Finmo, like my top 3 features, and this is what really brought me into the Finmo world, where I'm now fully integrated into Finmo in my own work life. Number 1 is client-facing application. They have, again, I've used everything out there pretty much. They have by far the best client-facing application in Canada. It is incredible. I actually prior to using Finmo, I never had anyone say, oh, your online process is so good. Now I'll get like people leaving me reviews or reaching out to be like, that process for me to fill out that application was so intuitive and so easy. I can't believe this. I have realtors reaching out to me and say, clients they love that online process. It's so easy for them to use. So that's number one, client-facing application. Number two is document collection. One of the beauties about Finmo and how their automation works behind the scenes is, depending on how the client fills out an application, it'll tell them the list of documents that they need, and they can easily upload those documents. And then I get a notification right away saying that those documents are ready to be reviewed. And then I can download those, convert them into PDFs, save them in my cloud storage, whatever. And so those are my top two things. Number three is obviously the API integrations. They allow the REST hooks that I can connect to Zapier. I use a few different automation softwares. I use Zapier. I use make.com. I know Rob was showcasing that a little bit. And I also use Zoho Flow. I use Zoho Flow because I get it for free in the Blue Mortgage. So those are my top three why I use Finmo and the cool features. So I'll just jump right into what I use. I have 5 different examples of what I use for automation. Okay. So this first one, it's not a fancy presentation like the boys at Be Vigilant there, but this here's my first one. So essentially in Zoho Flow, I have a webhook set up so that when a client fills out an application, hits submit in Finmo, it immediately, Zoho Flow takes that webhook from Finmo, and it immediately creates a new row with all the client data in a Google worksheet for me. And by all the client data, I mean all the client data that is filled out in Finmo. It gets put into a line right on the worksheet. And then the reason why I do this is because sometimes it's a little easier to grab info, which I'll show you in a little bit on why I do this, but sometimes a little easier to grab info from a worksheet than it is from a CRM or something like that. So I have this set up. Second is, and it's going from like an ease of setup to it gets progressively harder here in these 5 examples. So this here's done in Zapier. Essentially what happens is when a client fills out an application in Finmo, Zapier immediately checks to see if that contact is in my Google Contacts. If it's not, it updates it creates a contact in my contacts. So now, like Joe said before, if they call me or text me, it's on the phone. And the amount of times prior to doing this, I never once put a client name and contact number in my phone. It would always show up as their phone number. I'd never know who it was. And it was brutal because I was too busy to go in and always add the contact. I never did it. And so now this is all done instantly. Like as soon as they click submit on the application, they're immediately added to my Google Contacts. And then this here just says, if there's a second applicant adding the application, it'll do the same process. This one here gets a little more complicated, and this is an automation. So in Saskatchewan, we have to make sure we send out an initial disclosure and a credit consent within 1 business day of us getting an application from the client. And so essentially what this flow does, it's done in Zoho Flow, and it's a conditional automation where as soon as Blue Mortgage, which is the CRM that I use, receives a deal from Finmo, which again is instant, it'll do I have some set variables so that it knows about borrowers. If there's one borrower on the application, it'll actually send a templated initial disclosure and credit consent document to them. And then it'll also update a custom field in my CRM that this was sent. If there's 2 borrowers, it'll go through this workflow. If there's 3 borrowers, this workflow. If it's 4 borrowers, I'll just do it myself and send it, but I don't typically get that many over 3 borrowers. But essentially what this does is I never send out my initial disclosure and credit consents. Everything is done. So from the moment that a client fills out an application and submits it, all this automation happens behind the scenes to tell the client what they need to do in order for me to pick up an application. And I have a personal rule where it's in my customer journey that I created where I don't touch a deal unless I have a full package. I don't touch a deal unless I have a full application. I don't quote rates without a full application. I don't quote rates or touch a deal without full document package. And I don't do anything unless I have this stuff signed. And so to automate all this stuff makes it so that as soon as the client clicks submit, they get all this stuff, and it usually happens, like they usually sign this immediately after. I usually get a document package immediately after, so I can start working right away. This here is through make.com. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to jump in on that one. So your previous slide there, that's a huge one to me. Like that's an enormous amount of work. That's enormous, like the whole processing thing. Like, have you tried to quantify this one for time?
It's actually a lot. So I used to have my assistant do this for me, and then we lost our assistant here a couple months ago. And so this saves me a ridiculous amount of time, because I'm a notorious procrastinator. So I procrastinate all the time. And so what I'll do is, if this isn't set up, it'll take a while for me to do this. And this just saves me a ton of time, and it keeps me compliant, which is awesome. And so I want to take this one step further also. Like, once I get back from vacation, I'm going to do this, is in this same workflow, once they sign that document, it'll also trigger or I guess it'll probably be a different workflow, but once they sign the document this is done through Zoho Sign, this particular system. But once they sign that, I want Zoho Flow to pick that up and save it in their Dropbox folder as well, and labeled a certain way. So that way I'm not saving anything and everything's just there when I need it. So
brilliant.
That'll be the next steps to make this even better.
I say this before too, but what you're just talking about here and everything and what you're going into, these automations and this setup of your system, this is a bridge to you hiring that assistant, right? A bridge. If you're a $15 million broker, $20 million broker, you're like, oh my gosh, I got to hire somebody. And my systems are set up. Okay. Once your systems are set up and you're saving time, that's going to stretch out the time that you need to actually hire that assistant, right, to do that. And then when they do come in, they can be focused on lead generation. They can be focused on pulling reports and saying, hey, Chris, call these 10 clients today. They've got rates over X amount, right? So, and that's the focus, is coming back to why we got into the business of getting deals in the door, working those deals and winning a new one, right?
Yeah. And that's like, for me, it's like, don't get me wrong, like I love my job. I'm not doing anything ever again. I think most of us absolutely love our job. The worst part about my job is like dealing with the documents. I hate doing that. So anything I can do to automate that process makes my life just more enjoyable. So I don't have to do this, right? For me, my number one thing that I love doing in my business is finding business. I think it gives me a rush when I get that phone call in. And so I want to focus more time on that. And the best way to do that is automating the stuff that I don't want to do. And the cool thing is that now I'm not paying an assistant to do this. It's just all done automated. And there's no mistakes that happen, and everything just works. Now, having said that, the one thing I did want to mention is there's two things that's going to happen with getting into a CRM. And number one, it's one or the other. One, you need to spend a lot of time setting up your CRM and setting up the automations. That's what I've done. I've spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours over the last 3 years honing in my systems and getting this stuff set up. I'm also super picky and I want things to be my way. And I love, like, I've ADHD myself. And so when I get dialed in on something, I get super hyper focused and I'll spend an entire weekend creating one flow. But most people don't have the time to do that, or don't want to do that, or don't have the passion to do that, which then leads me into number two. And that's, you have to spend money on paying someone to do this for you. Those are literally the only two options that you have. Do it yourself, or spend money to have someone do it for you. And that's where someone like Be Vigilant is going to be extremely valuable to people watching this, is because they're going to be able to take a look at your customer journey and identify that and help you, work with you to set up these systems and processes behind the scenes for you. So this one here again is in make.com. Go ahead.
I was just saying, thanks for the plug. How much time, maybe just on a question, how much time would you say is learning about the system and how to create it versus actually now doing it? Like,
I'm a learn as you go kind of person. So like, I just like opened up Zoho Flow, for example. And actually Joe and I, I'll give this example. Joe and I, this is, I don't know, like a year ago now, I can't remember. It was one of our first chats where I needed, my biggest gripe with the Finmo Blue Mortgage route was that when I added deal notes into my personal notes into a Finmo application, it wasn't coming over into my client deal inside of Blue Mortgage. And so I needed to figure this out. So then I got super hyper focused on this, had a Zoom call. Joe didn't know how to do this either. So we're like, let's just work on this together, see how we can get this set up. So we went into Zapier, wasn't really working in there. There's a couple things that weren't jiving properly with that, how to do that. So I opened up Zoho Flow and we just worked it out. And sure enough, I think, oh, maybe I don't have it on this slide, but essentially now when I type in deal notes into Finmo, it immediately just like grabs that note and finds the deal inside Blue Mortgage and adds that in there. And so I'm just I just learn as I go, and then I'll Google lots. Like it's make.com. I know Rob was the one that told me to take a look at this. This took me a ton of time. I spent like 2 solid weekends just like researching it, trying to teach myself how to code, which I'm working on right still to this day. But it can take a lot of time. So unless you're super nerdy and you have this time to invest into it, I'd recommend just like hiring someone to do it for you. But then,
hey Chris, I'm going to throw this. I'm going to ask this thought. I just had this thought in my mind and see if you've done it. Have you tried ChatGPT to figure out the codes?
100%. So I've used ChatGPT lots. The issue with ChatGPT is that you kind of need to know how to code to know what it's spitting out, to know that it's spitting out the correct thing. So right. I was working with ChatGPT to create some deluge code and this is before I knew anything about deluge coding, to create a deluge code for a button in Blue Mortgage. And it took me, again, a solid weekend of me playing around with this and a ton of research and realizing what am I doing wrong and what am I, what is ChatGPT doing wrong? And it doesn't, because it doesn't always give you the right information. And so I did spend a lot of time researching and learning some deluge code myself, took some training to do that. But again, I'm interested in that stuff. So, and then I worked with ChatGPT and then it helped me create a deluge coded function in order for me to copy certain things for my custom fields in Blue Mortgage. So it was definitely a help. I use ChatGPT to help me with this here too a bit with some of the make stuff. But again, you just got to kind of have a bit of a knowledge to utilize it properly. So this specific one here is I use Todoist. I'm a big proponent of, I can't stand when platforms, especially like the deal submission platforms in our industry, where they're trying to like put that big umbrella around you and give you a big hug and keep you in and don't let you use anything else out there. I don't like that, because the thing is like they might do 1 or 2 things that are the absolute best in the industry, right? Like maybe they do the client-facing application the best. Maybe they do application input on the broker side of things the best, or there might be certain things that they're really, really good at. But then once they start integrating other stuff into their systems, that signing, e-signing packages and email communication and all this other stuff, what I've noticed is that they'll still do those things really, really well, but then they do all this added stuff really, really bad. And then they won't let you integrate with anything else. And for me, I like to use the best of the best, right? I personally think DocuSign's the best e-signing platform, so I want to use that. I personally think that MailChimp is the best email platform, so I want to use that, and so on and so forth. I want to be able to use whatever I want, and Finmo allows me to do that. And allows me to do that through using things like Zapier, through Make, which is this here. Todoist is one of my to-do list apps. It's my to-do list app that keeps everything organized for me. And I can't stand the one that's in Blue Mortgage because it looks super archaic and it's not really great. So what I have set up here is that when an application comes in via Finmo, it immediately creates, it does this like thing, if it's a transfer, a purchase, whatever, it creates this workflow inside of Todoist where it creates a client folder almost, where now I can organize these tasks in a certain way in Todoist. So then when they fill out this application, immediately inside of Todoist is a client to-do list for myself. And then here's a little more of a, is this the most one? Yeah, this is the most complicated one that I've set up right now, where this is also integrating Todoist, where essentially what I do is when I add a task to that client, that pre-created client Todoist folder, whatever section, what it does, it'll go through a workflow, it'll check inside of that spreadsheet that I had created in Google Worksheet. It does a couple decision things here, and it's I don't want to go through this whole thing, but essentially what it does is that when I add or or complete tasks inside of Todoist, it'll immediately, if I add the task inside Todoist, it'll add it into as a task inside of Blue Mortgage. So I can at least see the tasks inside Blue Mortgage. And if I complete the task inside of Todoist, it'll mark it as complete inside of Blue Mortgage. So essentially this is allowing those two systems to communicate, but I choose to use Todoist because I think it's one of the best to-do list platforms out there. And so that's just a few of the different, I think that was the last one. Yeah, so that's just a few of the different ways that I use automation in my life. And yeah, like I said, it saved me a ton of time. And if going back, I wouldn't change how much time I've spent on it because I've learned a ton, but I'm also super nerdy like that. But if it's something that you want to do, which I really encourage that you should be doing is automating. Either one, invest the time into your CRM and automation, or two, invest the money into it. Those are the only two ways that you can get stuff done. And if you're looking at investing money and hiring someone, then I definitely recommend checking out Be Vigilant, because they're the only company in the industry that's actually like doing this for mortgage brokers. And they are mortgage brokers that understand what mortgage brokers are pain points. And that's one of the cool things about Finmo is it was created and still managed by mortgage brokers that know the pains that we're going through. So that's my little presentation here. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know.
Thanks, Chris. That's awesome. And just so everyone knows, I mentioned in the chat as well, if you're using Finmo and you're submitting your deals on Finmo and you want to know more, we have integration sessions that we'll do with you to kind of have that one-on-one conversation where you can have it. And Chris and I had that. I've had that with hundreds of brokers across the country. And at that point, you can sit back and kind of go, well, I could do that. I could build a Zap, or I'm going to talk to the guys at Be Vigilant, right? So it's a sort of a gateway to find out what you're comfortable with. So don't hesitate to reach out. So Francis, I think you had a question and I interrupted. So,
well, no, it's quite all right. No, I thought this was great, Chris. I'm curious to know if I wanted to set up some basic, tasks and stuff for using Zapier from your experience, how much time do I need to allocate for that? Like, what would get me from the point of, starting to a point of, okay, I got something started or something built?
I think the hardest part for me was just knowing what needed to be done, right? And so what was nice for me is I got to see what other brokers do, right? So like what are other brokers doing up there? I know Joe has a list of different automations that he uses, and so he sent that out. I think it's available on the Finmo website. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but you could take a look to see what are some of the common automations. And then once you know that, then you can go into those platforms and just kind of fiddle around a bit and play around with it. So I know Joe said or I can't remember, maybe it was Rob that said it, but that it takes to set up your first app 4 to 6 hours. I'd say that was pretty accurate. I mean, it takes some fiddling and testing and playing around. But once you get into it and you start hey, I did my first one, the next one becomes a little easier and takes a little bit less time. The next one becomes a little less time because you kind of know
exactly how to do it. So, if you're good at a spreadsheet, you're going to get Zapier and programs like that. But that's accurate. All right.
Now I'm going to ask another question. I'm jumping right in because I'm the last person, which it's going to turn out to be more of a conversation because that's what I like to do. What is your favorite integration and why? What would you say is the most life-changing one that you did that you're like, I cannot believe I haven't done this before?
I've got one. You go first, Chris.
Yeah, there's two. The first one's extremely easy, and the second one took a lot more, it took a bit more fiddling. But the first one is adding the contacts to my Gmail contacts. It's such a simple thing, and it makes the clients are so impressed when I answer the phone. Hey, Joe. Hey, Mark. Hey, Francis. And they're so especially if I haven't talked to them since their mortgage renewal, and I call, they're like, whoa. Wow, you remember who I am, right? And it's yeah. And I know. So that was such an easy thing for me to implement. And legit, I set it up one time and I haven't touched it again. It just runs, right? And so that was number one. And then number two was the automation of my the signing, the signed consent and initial disclosure. Because that's two things that I hate doing. They're generic. They're generic documents that I don't want to ever touch. And so setting that up was an absolute game changer too.
Yeah. That's good. I got two.
I love that. I'll just jump in, Joe, before I get into yours. Tell you another reason why I love it, because I've noticed recently more and more people are repeat texters. I have a few clients that are not in my phone that I'm literally looking at this text going, who is this? Do I even have the right? And you're trying to figure out, and I'm like, hey there, great to hear from you.
Scrolling through. Oh, it's
scrolling through. Is her name? Is her name? What's the date in there? So I think that is brilliant and totally ups your ante in dealing with 100%. The client and differentiates yourself from anyone else out there. Joe, Absolutely. Over to you, buddy. What's your favorite? Tell me.
I have two. One is a client submits an application and the goal is a purchase. You can put a filter on that'll look and say, hey, this deal that was submitted, is there realtor information? There is. Perfect. Send an email to that realtor, copy the client, and say, hey, Mr. Realtor, just wanted to let you know that we've received the application for our mutual client, Chris. And if you have any questions, let me know. I've copied Chris on this email. Need his permission to share any information, but just want to let you know this is where we are. That happens automatically. I've had so many people come back to me and say, oh my gosh, it's gold. I got 3 new realtors because someone filled out the application, put in a realtor's name and contact info that I didn't work with. They submit the application. Next thing you know, I get a phone call from a realtor. Hey, thanks for that email. So I'm not working with anyone right now. And then they said, I sat there going, what email did I send? Oh, the automated email that went out. That's a great one. The other one is when you submit a deal to a lender, you can look at the application that was submitted. And if there is a property owned, say they have our RBC mortgage on a rental property, and if the balance is higher than 30,000, 50,000, you set the balance amount, it can take that mortgage of a property they already own, put it into your CRM as an opportunity mortgage for you to follow up on for whatever the maturity date is on that. Because we all say, oh, hey, I noticed you got that other property there. I'll follow up with you on that mortgage. But then you write it down in your notepad, and then your notepad paper gets thrown away and you forget to put it in the system, right? This way, when you submit the deal, it automatically mines the application and puts that opportunity on your CRM for you to follow up properly with your systems.
And I absolutely love that. I riffed this idea with someone a while ago, and I just, I always play the just imagine where technology is going to be in the future. And what I find that's super important, that what brokers have to realize, is the way that we operate our business today will be vastly different in 5 years, in 10 years, and 15 years down the road. I take myself again. I'm the old gal here with you guys. So I date myself, but I go back. Like I said, I didn't have email addresses. I mean, there was no such thing as electronic signatures. That was not even a thing when I first started doing mortgages. My husband and I talked about this before I did this webinar, and he's like, man, do you remember you were out on the road every day, Monday to Friday, from 6 p.m. My schedule was come home, be with the family, back out on the road from 7 p.m. to maybe even 10 p.m. at night to go see clients to sign documents and that. So if any of you out there are still doing that today, I'd strongly encourage you to lean into technology some more, because your clients, here's the thing, psychologically, we feel that clients want us to come to your house to give that personal service. I can guarantee you they don't. Because psychologically, if I know myself, have someone coming over, what's the first thing? It's oh my God, kids, clean up, put away the dishes, got to prepare, got to do all these things. People are expecting that digital do it when I want, when my time permits. And these things that we're implementing at our own firm by utilizing, these different integrations is creating more time in our agents' ability to do workflow. Moving forward, I do believe generationally, things will change with your consumers and their mindsets. The clients that you're dealing with in 10 years from now, your first-time home buyers, are my 16-year-old daughter at home today, right? Exactly. So my 16, right? And so Chris, where I'm going with this, my 16-year-old daughter, she's been, of course, in my life, seeing what I do since she was born. Both my girls have. I will sometimes pick her brain to get her perspective, right? Young adult. And I'll be like, okay, so you're going to do a mortgage in the future, and I'm going to email you a list of stuff to send to me by PDF. And she's like, okay, first of all, how do I do that? And where do I get the stuff? And why would I email it? And I'm like, okay, gets better. I need you to download this Adobe PDF file to fill out the application and send it back. She's like, why would I do that? Is there a form that I could just go on, like Uber Eats? That's what she says, like just fill out an order form like Amazon or Shein website when I'm ordering clothing. How can I track my deal? How can I see what's going on? The next generation moving forward is going to expect full digitalization. Interesting stat as well, before you guys can riff in on this. I've read up on this. COVID actually accelerated the use of technology by a decade. I don't know if you guys are aware of this.
I believe that. Yeah, I believe that.
Even with like this, like your example of her filling out a thing on Uber Eats and getting the food, like I talk to older brokers, or I see older brokers all the time saying, I handshake, meet everyone and handshake everyone. It's like, yeah, your clientele right now is going to be like that. But that generation is going to be gone. And those younger generations are going to come up. They don't want to shake anyone's hand. I don't even want, when I order Uber Eats myself, I just tell them to leave it at the door and ring the doorbell, and I'll just come and get it at the door. I don't want to even answer the door anymore. That's just where the world's going. And if you're not, and everyone says, oh, tech, we're all going to lose our jobs to tech. We're all going to lose it. No, that's not what's going to happen. We're going to lose our jobs. You're going to lose your job to another broker that's using tech. That's it. Tech's not just going to take your job. You're going to lose your job to a broker that's utilizing that tech, making their life more easier, more efficient for both themselves and the client. That's just the reality.
Chris, I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm a huge proponent of this in the industry. And I say the exact same thing all the time. Technology is here not to replace brokers. Technology is here to enhance and create the time and space for us to do what brokering should be about. We're not transactional. We never should have been transactional. Mortgage brokering truly is about spending the time with the consumer to say, and I said this on the podcast, and I've said this a few times. It's been my theme this year, and I firmly believe clients crave to be seen, heard, and understood. And the only way a broker can really see their clients, hear their clients, or understand their clients is creating time in their day to have more in-depth conversations. And then allocate that stuff. Chris, I'm with you. Paperwork and me are not the best of friends. And if I could find anything to eliminate doing any sort of tactical sort of transactions, I will be the first. As much as, again, don't know technology at all. I'm not afraid of it. I'm comfortable leaning into it to figure out how to create those processes. Where I am excited moving forward with this industry right now is I know, the narrative out there, and it's not the narrative, the reality out there is business is down now on average about 40%, give or take, with most individuals. I know we are scrambling. A lot of people are scrambling for business, but if you had these systems in place, one, you have a database and a goldmine of opportunities there that as human beings, it is impossible for you to remember all the stuff. The brain can only, handle, we only use about 10% of our brain capacity. And the amount of thoughts that go through our brain on every given point of day, we cannot remember anything at all. But you want to be able to utilize technology to take those tasks away. Like Ben, you and I joked on our call this morning. I mean, we don't hand wash our clothes anymore. We actually have washing machines to do that. You can hand wash it if you want, but there is, advancements that happen in our life to make our lives a lot easier. And these technology platforms are here. So I strongly encourage anyone to listen in, to be embracing this, to not only create more time so you can create more connections out there. My takeaways, Joe, I love that. I'm going to be implementing that for the realtor who referred you over, or you're working with a realtor thing. Mm-hmm. Realtors now are looking for experts and professionals in the fields to complement their own business. What a way to wow potential new realtors out there, that they're getting a professionally drafted email. And hey, if you're worried about writing stuff, ChatGPT, that's my best friend to edit any emails and stuff. If you want to add, to make sure that it's edited the right way in your wording. The security side of things, you guys be vigilant, like doing that. And making sure that you are properly in sync on your platforms and your hooks and everything else that you're doing, and taking the time to reach out to professionals to get that done. You know, Chris, the way that you've set up your stuff, and you're absolutely right. Take the time to understand your process. What you and Joe just said, I think, you know, we could take this time right now with business being slower. I'm always looking at the brighter side of things out there. I always believe that there's opportunities, and any sort of, you know, any sort of time of year that we're working on our business. And I think we have tremendous opportunity right now to be what brokers should be doing in helping clients, and using this time to streamline our business. Because I can't remember who said it, Ben or Chris or what have you said, and I agree. The cycles are there. We will get busy. Things will change. Chris, was that you that said that?
No, that was Rob. But yeah, it's
Rob.
It is. And right now is the time to implement all this stuff. If you're slower right now, I tell this to my brokers, do this now, because once you're busy, you're not going to have time to implement this stuff.
Yeah.
And so if you do this now, you're going to be so well positioned in the market to absolutely crush deals when everyone else is entering the industry. Because that's what happens when the industry gets busy. We see this flood of new people coming in because it's easy money. But now you are positioned so well to absolutely dominate your business.
Yeah, 100%. And there's Seth Godin wrote the book called The Dip, short little read, and it has there's a blue little wave on it. And it is the same thing could be said when he's talking about their marketing. You want to market when you're getting busy, so that dip is lower the next cycle going through. The same thing with systemization and automation. You want to be doing that now, especially when you're quiet, but also tweaking it. Just taking that hour to 2 hours per week and working in your business and saying, is this working? Is this efficient? Right. And it's hard to do, because if you're new in the business, you're looking to get a deal. Like, I got to get this deal and I got to get it submitted. I got to get paid. What's coming in? And so you're out there having coffees and meeting with people. I get that. I've been there. I've coached a few people into getting there. And it's just so important for all of us to be there for each other. And that's the thing I got I'll end my talk on, is the way we are in this mortgage industry. So I want to say thank you to Francis and to Chris and to Ben and Rob and Brad, that this sharing of information is so important to who we are as mortgage professionals in Canada. Because I always say to people, I'll share this client journey with you. It's up to you to implement it. I'll show you how to set up a Zap on a 30-minute call and how to work that through. And if you can do it, great. We can meet again and follow up on that. I think sharing information like we do is so important to elevate our industry, but it's also upon us, with people with more experience or less experience, to go to our associations, to go provincially and federally and say, we have to do better. We have to help these new people become more successful so that we don't have data breaches, so that we have happier, healthy, more vibrant mortgage brokering community.
Agreed.
Very well said.
So thank you everyone for being here today. I knew this was going to be fun, but I've paid attention the whole time. So thank you, everybody. It's been awesome. And I look forward to doing more of these, and we can zero in. So in feedback, everybody, you're going to get follow-up message that's going to include the client journey, contact information for everybody to be able to reach out and say thanks or ask questions. And we look forward to hearing from you, learning from you, and assisting you, and as everybody moves forward in this. So thank you so much for joining us today.